This happened a few months ago. I was trying to settle into my new apartment after losing my job. I moved to a bustling urban neighborhood, hoping for a fresh start. At first, everything felt normal. I had a little routine of exploring the area and getting used to it. One late night, as I flipped through Craigslist listings, I stumbled upon something strange. Free furniture must see. I had never thought much about free items, but something drew me in. Maybe it was the vintage appeal. I contacted the seller, and a few hours later, I was in a stranger's apartment. There it was, a vintage chair. It looked pretty worn but had character. When I sat in it, a chill ran through me. I could smell this odd mix of damp leather and something else. I told myself it was just an old chair. I took it home, feeling pleased with my find. After I placed the chair in my living room, things started to feel off. I remember one night, sitting at my desk, working on a project. Suddenly, I heard faint whispering from the hallway. My heart raced as I looked up but saw nothing. I brushed it off, thinking it was just my neighbor's TV or anything like that. A few nights later, I noticed my books had shifted on the shelf. I thought maybe I just hadn't put them back right. I was ignoring all the odd things when I came across another listing, a vintage mirror labeled, "Haunted for Real." I laughed and decided to buy it anyway. It seemed like a fun touch for my apartment. But every time I looked into that mirror, I felt like something was looking back. I thought it was just my imagination, but I couldn't shake that feeling. It was unsettling, and I avoided the mirror as much as I could. One night, I woke up to sounds of movement. The whispers were louder now, almost clear, like someone was talking right next to me. Heavy footsteps thudded above me, and I felt ice roll down my spine. I thought it was just the building, but then I saw a shadow dart across the wall. I convinced myself I was just overworked and sleep-deprived. These encounters grew worse with time. I started feeling dread whenever I went near the chair or the mirror. I decided to buy a peculiar bookshelf from a thrift store, thinking it might help. But the sense of dread only grew stronger. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to move out. I packed my things as quickly as I could. I didn't understand what happened. I wondered if it was the furniture, the apartment, or just my mind playing tricks. I still think about it sometimes. What was real? Was it all behind me? I hope whatever it was isn't following me. I've been careful about what I bring home since then. Then a lingering thought stuck with me. Maybe it wasn't over after all. Chapter 2. The uninvited return. After moving out, I felt lighter. My new place was smaller but cozy, and I thought I'd finally left the past behind. The memories of the old apartment faded, and life began to feel normal again. But that didn't last long. One afternoon, I was unpacking boxes when I found my old notebook. It was filled with sketches and notes about those strange occurrences. I flipped through the pages, reliving each moment. A chill crept in again, but I tried to push it away. It was just a chair and a mirror, I told myself. Nothing more. That night, I decided to celebrate my new beginning. I grabbed takeout and plopped on the couch, finally feeling relaxed. But just as I took my first bite, I heard a buzzing noise. It came from my phone. I picked it up and saw a message from an unknown number. "Hey, I've got the chair you left behind. I think it wants to come home." My breath caught in my throat. I didn't even remember giving my number to anyone in the building, let alone to a stranger. Heart racing, I stared at the screen, contemplating if I should respond or block the number. Anxiety churned in my stomach. Maybe it was a prank. A moment later, I heard a knock on my door. I froze. The buzzing in my phone suddenly felt sinister. I approached the door cautiously, peeking through the peephole. But there was no one there. I opened it a crack, peering into the empty hallway. Quickly shut the door, locking it. There was no way anyone could have left the message without being nearby. I sat back down, gripping my phone as though it might give me some protection. Trying to shake it off, I put on a movie to distract myself. The tension eased slightly, but every creak in the building made my heart quicken. I focused on the screen and tried to ignore the unease creeping back in. Suddenly, I heard it again, the faint sound of whispering, edging into my consciousness. I couldn't tell where it was coming from, but it grew louder, like it was coming from my walls. The buzzing of my phone broke the tension again. This time, a new message appeared. "You're not alone. We're always watching." My fingers trembled as I dropped the phone to the floor. That was too much. I grabbed my keys and rushed outside, needing fresh air. I didn't know where to go, just away from my apartment. The street was bustling, but I felt alone in a crowd. Then it hit me, the furniture. I hadn't thought about it deeply, but I had picked up a few items from garage sales and thrift stores. What if something was attached to those items? I felt like an idiot for not connecting the dots sooner. That night ended with little sleep, and the only thing I was sure of was that my past wasn't behind me. I needed answers. And then, just as I was drifting off, the thought flickered, what if the furniture tried to find me? I needed to get to the bottom of this, and fast. Chapter 3. The search for answers. The next day, I barely celebrated my day off. Instead, I grabbed my laptop, determined to dig deeper. I needed to trace back my purchases, every chair, every lamp, anything that could have brought this chaos into my life. My heart raced as I opened Craigslist. I sifted through years of listings, hoping to reconnect with each item. I found a post about the chair. The photo showed it in the seller's cluttered living room, an oddity among their mismatched furniture. I recognized the wooden frame and the faded upholstery that reminded me of dusty old attics. I clicked on the thread and scoured it for details. The original seller, a woman named Linda, mentioned that the chair had belonged to her grandmother. Maybe there was something about it that held power, something I couldn't understand. The more I read, the more I felt the urge to reach out. I sent her a message, anxious but hopeful. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I typed, "Hi. I purchased a chair from you a while back, and I was wondering if you knew anything about its history." Once I hit send, I took a deep breath, then quickly shifted my focus to other items. A lamp, a side table. Everything had a story, but did they have secrets? I couldn't shake off the feeling that I had let something in. Hours passed without a reply. I decided to take a walk, hoping a change of scenery would shake off the dread. I wandered through nearby streets, lost in thought, until I stumbled upon a thrift store. Felt like a trap, but I couldn't resist the pull. Inside, I was met with the familiar smell of old wood. My eyes darted around the cluttered aisles. If my past was haunting me through furniture, maybe I could find more answers here. As I browsed, the hairs on my neck stood up. I felt a chill, but I pushed it down. Just don't think about it, I told myself. As I rummaged through a pile of mismatched chairs, a soft voice floated through the store. "They can come back, you know," a woman said, her voice gentle yet eerie. She appeared out of nowhere, her eyes vast and knowing. "Sometimes they don't want to be forgotten." I froze, gripping the edge of a chair. "What do you mean? When you let them go, they search for a place to belong," she continued, stepping closer. "It's not always a friendly reunion." Panic surged through me. "How do you know?" She smiled, but it felt off, like a cat watching its prey. "I've seen things." I backed away, the tension thickening in the air. "Thanks, but I have to go." My mind raced as I hurried outside, glancing over my shoulder. I barely made it back to my apartment before my phone buzzed again. There was a reply from Linda. "The chair? Oh, that one. The special. It always brings out something." My heart stopped, and dread settled in my stomach. What did she mean by something? I took a staggering breath. I had to find out more. But as I looked out the window, something or someone caught my eye in the alleyway below. A figure stood there, staring up at my window. I couldn't see their face, but they felt familiar. As I squinted, everything went dark. Chapter 4. Shadows in the alley. I blinked, trying to shake off the darkness that had enveloped me. My heart raced. I wasn't sure how long I had been out, but the fear coursing through my veins felt all too fresh. I hurried to the window, my hands trembling. The alley was empty now, just shadows and refuse. Had I imagined it? The chill in my bones screamed otherwise. I glanced quickly back at my phone. No new messages. I needed answers, and fast. I decided to call Linda. My fingers hesitated over the screen, the fear of what might unfold holding me back. What if she knew more than she let on? I took a breath and pressed the call button, pacing the worn floor of my apartment. When she picked up, her voice was cheerful. "Hello? Linda, it's me. I'm sorry to bother you, but about the chair. What do you mean it brings out something?" My words tumbled out, breathless and urgent. There was a pause on the other end. "Well, it's a bit hard to explain. It tends to evoke memories, sometimes memories that should stay buried." She answered slowly, as if she were weighing each word. "Sometimes it can even bring out emotions in those who sit in it." Emotions? What kind of emotions? My mind raced, memories from last night's events flooding in. Strong ones. Feelings that can linger, even after you leave the chair. She replied, her tone shifting. "You must be careful. It's not just a piece of wood and fabric. It's a yeah?" I pushed, dread turning my stomach. "It's a vessel. But I can't explain it all over the phone. You need to see it in person to understand." "I'm not sure I want to. Just listen to your instincts and watch for the signs. They can appear when you least expect it," she urged before hanging up. I felt an icy grip around my spine. Signs? What signs? I had enough on my plate as it was. I glanced out the window again, as if expecting to see that figure from before. But there was nothing. Just the empty alley, dark with uncertainty. Feeling overwhelmed, I decided to wash my face and think things through. As I entered the bathroom, my reflection startled me. I looked tired, washed out, like I was carrying a weight I couldn't see. Distracted, I grabbed a towel and splashed water on my face, trying to clear my mind. When the light flickered. The bulbs overhead pulsed in and out like the beating of a heart. I froze. It had done this before, but I brushed it off as a minor problem. Now it felt different. The air turned cold around me. I opened the bathroom door and stepped out, only to find a figure standing in my living room. It was a shadow, but not an ordinary one. I could feel its presence, heavy and suffocating. Then it whispered my name. "Help me." I stumbled back, panic gnawing at my insides. "What do you want?" The shadow lingered, swirling like smoke. It didn't reply, but instead pointed to the chair in the corner, the one I had bought from Linda. "No," I murmured, backing away. Suddenly, the room felt suffocating. The walls seemed to close in, crushed under the weight of a voice I couldn't see. My instincts screamed at me to leave, to escape. When everything went dark again. But this time I felt a sense of urgency. I needed to uncover the truth. Chapter 5. The weight of secrets. I woke up on the floor, disoriented. The room was silent now, but the shadow lingered in my mind. A chill I couldn't shake. I pushed myself up, breathing heavily. Had I fainted? Or had it been a dream? I rubbed my eyes, willing the memory to fade. Glancing around, reality came rushing back. That chair. If I wanted answers, I had to confront it. I stood slowly, my legs shaking beneath me. The air felt thick with tension, as if the house itself was holding its breath. I approached the chair cautiously. It sat there, innocuous and unassuming, yet somehow menacing. Part of me wanted to touch it, to see if it would trigger anything, while another part said to run. I grabbed my phone again and pulled up Linda's contact info. Maybe she would know what to do. But then I hesitated. Maybe she was the reason behind all this. I took a step back, caught in a spiral of doubt. Was there more I didn't know? As I toggled between calling Linda and not calling her, something caught my eye. A glimmer from underneath the chair. It was small, half hidden in the dust. Curious, I knelt down and reached for it. My fingers brushed against what felt like a piece of paper. I pulled it out slowly. It was an old receipt, worn and yellowed. My heart sank as I read the words. It was from a pawn shop, dated years ago. The item listed was a restoration of cursed antique. The thought made my skin crawl. What had I really brought into my life? A soft whisper echoed in my mind again. "Help me." It felt like the room had grown darker, the shadows wrapping around me like a shroud. I realized I was sweating, a cold dread seeping into my bones. I needed to know if the chair was truly cursed or if I was just losing my mind. I glanced at the window. The alley beyond was dark, and the only sound was the hushed rustle of leaves in the wind. Gathering my courage, I turned back toward the chair. Whatever secrets lay within it, I couldn't ignore them. I had to sit in it. The moment I settled into the fabric, everything changed. The room spun, and the air crackled with energy. Faces and voices swirled past me, each one more confusing than the last. I gasped, a flood of emotions overwhelming me: fear, sorrow, anger. Then it hit me. I wasn't alone. Figures appeared in the corners of my vision, shadows shimmering and curling. They looked familiar, but I couldn't place them. I felt myself being pulled into their stories, and I panicked. I tried to get up, but my body wouldn't listen. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, echoing around me. "Remember us," they cried, a chorus of pleading voices. The chair transformed into a portal, and I had no idea where it would take me. Just then, the doorbell rang. The sound cut through the chaos like a knife. Instantly, the figures vanished, and the shadows retreated. I gasped, heart racing, and scrambled to stand. Who could it be? As I stumbled toward the door, dread filled me. I couldn't remember the last time someone visited unannounced. Was it Linda, or someone else? With shaking hands, I opened the door, not knowing what to expect on the other side. Chapter 6. The shadows at the door. I hesitated for a moment, my heart racing as I gripped the doorknob. When I finally pulled it open, I was met with an unexpected sight. A tall figure stood there, partially obscured by the dim light. My breath hitched in my throat. "Can I help you?" I managed to say, still half wondering if the last hour had been real or just a figment of my imagination. The stranger stepped closer, and I recoiled slightly. The face was familiar, a neighbor I barely knew, someone who lived a few doors down the street. His name was Jerry. I remembered sharing a few awkward hellos, but nothing more. "Sorry to intrude," he said, his voice low and shaky. "I just saw some strange lights coming from your window. Is everything okay?" I scanned the hallway behind him. Yeah, everything is fine. Just something happened in here." Panicking, I thought about the chair and the whispers. Did he see me? Did the chaos reach beyond my walls? His eyes flickered with concern, and I could see the uncertainty etched across his face. "You sure you're okay? You look a bit pale." "Really, I'm fine. Just I thought about the chair as secrets, the figures that had surged at me. Just had a long night is all." But Jerry didn't seem convinced. He stepped further inside, peeking past me into the dimly lit room. "Are you sure you're alone?" The question sent a chill down my spine. "Yes, just me." He nodded slowly, lingering by the threshold. "You know, strange things have been happening around here lately. I thought it was just me being paranoid. But..." He glanced back at me, uncertainty dancing in his eyes. "People have mentioned things disappearing at night. Unexplained noises." My stomach flipped. Was it possible? The chair's power felt tangible, and now I had a neighbor mentioning disappearances? It was too much. "Things here are different," I said cautiously. "I think something strange is going on, but I'm not sure what. That's why I came over, actually. I heard good things about you from Linda." His gaze sharpened, dissecting my reaction to her name. "She mentioned you might know something." The mention of Linda made me hesitate. Instinctively, I felt a surge of loyalty or perhaps caution. If she was tangled in whatever this was, I didn't want to bring Jerry into the fray. "What did she say?" "Just how you were sensitive to things, like feelings, energies." He ran a hand through his hair, looking uneasy. "I thought maybe you'd have ideas about what people are experiencing." I considered this. Linda had always known things about me, but was I ready to share all this? What if this was all a bad idea? I felt the walls closing in again, the room pulsing with hidden truths. As I opened my mouth to respond, a sudden crash echoed from the other room. I winced, my heart racing. The chair. Jerry stepped back, a hint of fear flashing across his face. What was that? Before I could respond, the shadows in the room seemed to thicken, swelling around us. I felt that familiar chill creep up my spine again. Whatever power the chair held was not pleased with our interruption. "That came from inside," Jerry said, his voice wavering. I swallowed hard as a swirl of energy crackled in the air. I turned toward the living room, dread pooling in my gut. What was happening now? "Wait here," I told Jerry. But as I took a step toward the noise, that whisper echoed back in my mind, "Help me." Just as I reached the hallway, I felt something brush past me. A gust of cold air that sent a shiver down my spine. I gasped, realizing I wasn't alone. The shadows had returned, more potent and menacing than before, and they seemed set on revealing whatever secrets lay beyond those walls. Chapter 7. The unseen pull. I stepped into the living room, my heart pounding and my breaths coming in quick, shallow gasps. The light flickered overhead, casting eerie patterns on the walls. The chair loomed ominously in the corner, its dark wood appearing almost alive in the dim light. I knew I had to confront whatever was inside. "Hello?" I called out, trying to sound steadier than I felt. The shadows danced at the edges of the room, sentient and swirling. I felt them pulling at me, drawing me closer to the chair. In that moment, I understood that I couldn't ignore the bizarre sensations any longer. Whatever Linda had sensed, whatever I had felt during those nights alone, was real. The quiet was interrupted by Jerry's hesitant voice behind me. "Are you sure about this? Maybe we should leave. Just give me a second," I said, trying to keep the tremor from my voice. I moved toward the chair, where the whispers had once called to me. "I just need to see." As I approached, the air thickened, tinged with an unsettling energy. A force tugged at my mind, urging me to sit down, to embrace the chaos the chair offered. I hesitated, a heavy doubt pressing down on me. What if it was a trap? What if whatever power resided in the chair despised intrusions? Suddenly, a loud thud rang out from the kitchen. The sound sent both of us flinching back. "What was that?" Jerry asked, eyes wide as he glanced nervously toward the sound. "I don't know," I admitted, panic creeping back in. "But I feel like it's connected to everything." Before I could dwell on thoughts of leaving, the whispers intensified. "Help me help us." The voices, soft yet urgent, resonated in my mind. Who were they? What did they want? "Do you hear that?" I asked Jerry, not sure if I wanted to hear him say he didn't. "What?" "I don't hear anything," but he cut himself off, staring past me. His face had gone pale, eyes widening with fear. "Behind you." I spun around, the shadows coalescing into a darker figure against the wall. I squinted, unwilling to believe what I was seeing. The figure seemed to pulsate with energy, a silhouette that felt familiar, yet alien, almost human but marred by some deep sorrow. "What are you?" I whispered, not even sure whether I spoke to Jerry or to the figure forming in the dark. It hesitated, a shroud of silence falling over the room. Then, just as suddenly, it surged forward, and the air crackled with raw power. I staggered back, the chill washing over me like ice water. My instincts screamed to run, but the whispers begged me to stay. Jerry was frozen in place, just behind me. "We need to go," he urged, gripping my arm. "This isn't right." And yet, as much as I feared the figure, something inside pushed me closer. "I can't just leave this behind," I replied, my voice almost a whisper. "There's a reason it's here." "Are you insane?" Jerry exclaimed. But there was no time to argue. The shadows lunged, and I felt a rush of energy envelop me. In that split second, I finally understood. I was part of this. And whatever had happened in my apartment was only the beginning of the truth. Before I could grasp what that meant, everything went dark, consuming me in the very shadows I had feared. I felt the weight of unseen eyes upon me, drawn into something I never could have anticipated. Chapter 8. The echoes of truth. The darkness wrapped around me like a thick fog. For a moment, I felt lost, unmoored from reality. My instincts screamed for me to fight against the void, but I was powerless to do anything. Just as panic began clawing at my chest, a blinding light struck through the darkness, startling me awake. I found myself sitting in the dreaded chair, the one that had felt so alive moments before. My heart raced, Had I really sat down? I looked around. The room appeared unchanged, yet it pulsed with an energy I couldn't quite explain. Jerry was gone. Jerry? I called out, desperation creeping into my voice. No answer. Just an unnatural stillness. I tried to rise, but something held me in place. It wasn't a physical restraint, it was more like an invisible weight pressing down on my shoulders. The whispers returned, echoing around me, no longer fragmented but consolidating into a single voice. You must remember. What do you mean? Remember what? I shouted, my voice breaking the quiet like a gunshot. Images flickered around me, disjointed memories surfacing like bubbles in murky water. A child's laughter, a woman's soft touch, and a burning pain. A wave of questions crashed over me. Why did my childhood feel intertwined with this chair? Suddenly, I saw a flicker in the corner of my eye, movement in the shadows. I turned, and for a moment, I thought I saw Jerry, his face twisted in anguish. Don't, he mouthed silently before disappearing. Something inside me clenched. What was happening? I felt a surge of empathy, but it was mixed with fear. I could no longer ignore the past woven into this moment. Tell me, pleaded. What do you want? The shadows intensified, swirling violently, and the whispers grew louder, now a cacophony voices from memories, mixed with fear and sorrow. I felt as if they were trying to pull me into their world. Help us, they screamed. Then one voice broke through the noise, clear and commanding. You are the key. At once, the chair released me. I stumbled to my feet, breathless. The key to what? As if answering, the air shifted. I noticed a glimmer on the floor, a strange object shining amid the gloom. I knelt down to pick it up, and my heart stopped. It was an old locket, tarnished with age but unmistakably familiar. The engraved initials inside caused a sense of dread to wash over me. Why do I have this? I whispered, my skin prickling. Everything felt wrong, yet the locket was a connection to something deeper, perhaps a bond to the figures I had seen. I needed answers. Suddenly, the door to the living room slammed open. I turned to see a young woman standing in the doorway, her expression filled with terror. You shouldn't have come here, she shouted. Before I could ask who she was, she raised a hand. A dark mist began swirling around her, echoing the energy I had felt earlier. Who are you? I called out, feeling the weight of unease return. But even as the question left my lips, I understood this was more than I had bargained for. The shadows trembled in anticipation, and the room seemed ready to explode with secrets long kept hidden. And in that moment, I realized I was no longer just facing the shadows. I was stepping into a past that refused to stay buried. Chapter 9. The unraveling. I stared at the woman, my heart pounding in my chest. Her presence was unsettling. She looked familiar yet distant, as if she belonged to a different time. The dark mist swirled around her like a living thing, and I felt the urge to step back. Please, you have to leave, she cried, her voice trembling. You don't know what's coming. What is coming? I demanded, desperation clouding my mind. Who are you? I'm someone from your past, she replied, her gaze darting nervously around the room. You don't belong here. They'll know you're here. I blinked at her. My past? What did she mean by that? The room felt heavy, the echoes of yesterday strangling me. I could still feel the cool metal of the locket in my hand, its weight anchoring me to this moment as the darkness continued to seep into the edges of my vision. Look, you don't have much time. She took a step closer, desperation etched on her features. You have to find the truth before it finds you. Her words twisted the knot in my stomach tighter. The truth? What truth? What do you mean? What are you talking about? I was shouting now, panic taking hold. I can't explain, she shot back, glancing over her shoulder, as if expecting someone or something to materialize from thin air. You need to remember the locket. Remember us. A stab of recognition cut through my confusion. The girl in my memories, the laughter, the woman's touch, the locket had to be the key to understanding it all. I clutched it tighter, struggling to piece together fragments of what I was feeling without getting lost in the spiraling shadows. Are you saying this is about my family? I asked, feeling the ground begin to shift beneath me. Yes, she insisted, urgency rising in her voice. Don't you see? They have been waiting for you. You're the missing piece. Just then, the shadows around her flickered in response to her voice. They twisted and writhed in agitation, growing darker as if angered by the conversation. The air crackled with tension. I don't understand any of this, I yelled, frustration spilling over. My mind raced, darting between regret and fear while grasping for answers that remained stubbornly just out of reach. What are they waiting for? Why does this matter? I can't stay here, she shouted, her voice rising over the growing chaos. If they find me with you, they will take you. Before I could react, the walls trembled, and the lights flickered ominously. A deep rumble echoed through the space, sending shivers down my spine. I had no idea what was about to happen, but I knew I needed to act. I can help you, I called out, grasping desperately to hold onto her before she vanished. Please, just tell me what to do. Remember the love, she yelled, and in a flash of light, she dissolved into the dark mist. The room plunged into a sudden silence, leaving me alone with the shadows. I felt raw panic surge within me. The locket burned in my palm as I stood frozen, too many emotions swirling. Then everything shifted, and I saw it, a shadowy figure looming in the doorway, its eyes glowing with a sinister light. I realized I was out of time. I turned to run, fueled by a primal instinct. Somebody help me, I screamed, my voice echoing into the unknown, frantic and terrified. Behind me, the darkness began to close in, heavy and suffocating. The figure advanced, and I had no choice. I needed to uncover the truth before it consumed me entirely. Chapter 10. The final confrontation. I bolted through the living room, the weight of dread pushing me toward the exit. The shadows, twisting and writhing in my wake, seemed alive, trying to latch onto me as I sped toward the front door. I could hear the whispers amplify, calling my name in a maddening chorus. They weren't just echoes anymore. They felt like orders demanding my attention. As I reached the door, I stumbled, fumbling with the lock. My heart thudded loudly in my chest, drowning out the chaos behind me. I finally burst through, collapsing onto the darkened hallway outside. The sudden stillness was disorienting, but my instincts pushed me to my feet. I needed to escape, but the shadows weren't far behind. I could feel their cold breath as I dashed down the staircase, each step echoing my heartbeat. The building had taken on an ominous air, as if the walls were closing in to trap me. I burst through the main entrance and into the chaotic world outside where people laughed and chatted under streetlights, oblivious to my turmoil. I needed to gather my thoughts. I took a few deep breaths, desperate to regain my focus. The night was fresh yet stifled by a tension that clung to me like a second skin. The locket burned in my pocket, pulsing as if alive. Clutching it gave me a strange sense of purpose, guiding me to search for real answers beyond this moment of panic. Drawn by a force I couldn't explain, I walked toward the park nearby, where darkness mingled with the flickering lights of the lampposts. As I wandered into the trees, shadows danced around me, but I felt oddly at ease. In the deepest corner of the park stood an old oak tree, its roots sprawling like fingers reaching for the ground. Suddenly, I remembered the woman's words. Remember the love. A wave of nostalgia washed over me, and I saw flashes of laughter, family gatherings, and long-forgotten faces. They were memories buried deep but surged back, along with a revelation, the love that had once filled my life before it faded into whispers of the past. I approached the oak, my thoughts racing, tracing the roots that unraveled like a history unseen. This is about my family, I murmured, placing my hand on the trunk. It felt warm, alive, connecting me to memories I had tried to bury. Clenching the locket tightly, I whispered, I can't let them control me. As the words left my lips, the air crackled once more, the shadows thickening and spiraling around me. I felt the echoes of countless voices join in the frenzy, a swirling storm of past and present. But this time I stood firm. I called back to them, I am not afraid. I remember, from the depths of the darkness, figures emerged, those who had once laughed, loved, and experienced both joy and sorrow in this very park. Their faces were illuminated against the shadows, and I recognized them. They were my lineage, my connections. Maybe they weren't spirits of despair, but spirits of resilience that wanted me to uncover the truth. Help us remember, they echoed, their voices harmonizing with mine, drawing energy from my resolve. In that moment, the tension erupted, and the shadows recoiled as if burned by the light of memories. The locket sparkled, and I knew it held their stories and my own, intertwining in a deeply rooted connection that stretched back generations. But even as the shadowy figures dwindled, something loomed in the distance, the ominous presence I had felt earlier. Gazing into the darkness, I understood that the shadows weren't merely spirits but manifestations of fear and trauma. They existed because I allowed them to linger. It was my choice. Facing the darkness meant accepting my past, both its beauty and its pain. I had to unravel the fears that had been passed through the lineage, helping to heal what had been left unresolved. Just then, the distant figure stepped closer, a combination of shadow and light. It held an air of familiarity, like a protector crafted from my history. "I am not your prisoner," I declared, my voice steady. "I acknowledge you, but my past won't bind me. I will carry the love with me." The darkness began to dissolve as my resolve solidified. The presence that had once invoked fear now transformed into something lighter, an embrace of acceptance. With one final surge, I felt the weight of the shadows lift, unshackling me from the past's chokehold. I blinked, and when I opened my eyes, the park was quiet again, a calmness restoring a sense of peace. Perhaps it hadn't ended cleanly or neatly, but I knew I was free from the memories that haunted and the shadows that whispered. I moved away from the tree, the echoes threading behind me but no longer suffocating. The locket remained in my hand, a tangible hint of connection but also a reminder. I took one last glance back. Would I ever know if those shadows had fully disappeared? Or would they remain, lurking in the periphery, waiting until memory flickered uncertainly again? I walked away, the dawn breaking before me. The questions, those would remain, a reminder of how deeply intertwined past, present, and future truly are. Life had shifted, but I wouldn't give in to fear again.